one looks a little off from that frame. And then when you have like 100 in a row, and then the rest of the team goes off to work on story mode, and I'm like there by myself like, okay, I guess I'll just, I have to stop email correspondences. I have to work on this entirely without like stopping, and it was...
Sorry.
It's fine. I mean, that was just, that was the most stressful part. But, I mean, towards the end, everyone was clocking in or clocking out like at 3, 4, 5 a.m. It's just like, And then, so everyone had a lot of stress at the end of the project anyway. So I wasn't complaining to them. But I think that, back to the producer point, that's when a producer would have been super useful to get that just down perfectly, because it was far from it.
Yeah, and again, one of the things that happened on this project was definitely that I ended up being a bottleneck, because there's only so much work I can do, and I had to fix bugs in the engine, and I had to fix things that our amateur programmer was doing that didn't end up done right. And I had to implement the characters so that animation could do the rest of them. And I don't know why I'm explaining this to you, probably because you asked about a producer. I ended up having to do a lot of stuff, and because there was so much stuff for me to do and we were already behind because I had to rewrite the renderer at the beginning of it, I ended up being able to give it late to animation, who ended up being able to give it late to cleanup. And there wasn't a lot that could get done other than having someone that could do some of what I was doing, but we didn't actually have that. So I apologize to everyone, and I'm very sad.
The other disadvantage for being the lead cleanup guy was I was kind of like the only cleanup guy in the office. There was kind of effectively 3 animators, like giving out assignments to all the animating contractors, and I mean, that's why we're of course definitely considering more in-office cleanup people for the next project.
Janitors.
that we work on. So I'm looking forward to that. But yeah, that was, I have a feeling that just in the end of any game project, there's going to be a lot of crunching. Is that not the case?
That is definitely the case, but it depends on, because you never scope properly. You try really hard, but it's never actually what you think it is, which is why you get like Valve time and Blizzard time and that game company time and stuff like that. Behemoth, yeah. So, since that answer took forever, who else? I'm not good at this. How about you?
In like the future, for any other future projects, are you guys...
Louder.
Oh, in the near future, for any other projects you guys will be working on, will you be planning on hiring like interns or anyone to join the art team?
Yeah.
Will we be planning... Gotta repeat the question for the microphone. Will we be planning to hire interns or other people for the art team for other projects that we would be working on? Or more Skullgirls stuff? And now it's not me.
Yes.
Sick! Especially unpaid interns. Those are the best kind. Alright, you?
I was wondering if you had any tips for aspiring artists and animators?
Not me.
Alex.
Specifically animators.
Okay, animators. Study from life a lot. Do figure drawing, gestures. Really understand how people move and interact with each other. Like John and I went to school together, and a lot of what our animation classes focused on was also acting. So actually just study film as well, and really understand the way people just move and act and stuff. So yeah, figure drawing and gestures are especially important. I think the technical stuff of like learning how to space things and there's all like the squash and stretch and the animation principles. Like you can technical stuff you just kind of you can pick up, but like gestures you just have to be doing constantly, and even now, like I'm still studying, and I don't feel like I'm that good. but what?
Nothing.
I don't. Well, yeah.
Okay.
Study from life. Animate a lot, and Yeah, I mean, you just have to keep doing it, and then you'll figure out what works and what doesn't. And I think, in regards to Skullgirls specifically in fighting games, we studied a lot of fighting games. Like we studied Street Fighter Third Strike, King of Fighters,
Vampire
/ Darkstalkers.
Yeah.
And going through those like frame by frame and seeing like for example, if you're doing like a punch, you're doing a basic punch, you want to have like a big anticipation and then you want to have the big stretch. And you kind of, from studying and practicing it yourself, you can kind of understand like, how like.
Go
what?
study, it's life.
I don't know what just happened.
Somebody got punched in the hall. Who knows?
Oh.
Go ahead.
Huh?
Lower it down.
Oh, okay, sorry.
Not you, Mariel. Not you.
Not you.
Okay. I mean, yeah, it's just a matter of studying and study the things you like, study from life, and just keep drawing lots.
I have something to say from the non-animation side to animators. Know what your target is. If they ask you for a jump, don't do huge amounts of anticipation before he takes off and then like a really big getting ready for landing and like landing, because it won't work in the game, right? You will definitely have to work toward targets. Like this was one of the things that we did because we'd never animated a fighting game before. So when we put it into the game and I come back and I'm like, you guys have 5 frames for the weak punch to hit. And they go, 5 frames? Like, really? That's nothing.
Yeah, we had to, like, especially for fighting games, you have to work within restrictions, and it's just, you learn it as you go.
Yeah.
I guess for video games in general, like the playable characters, you want the animation to be very responsive to the button press. So if you want to throw out a quick punch, it pretty much has to go straight to the punch. Whereas if you're animating like an enemy character, you want to be able to see that they're about to attack you. So like an enemy would have like a big anticipation and then to like block or whatever before they hit and stuff like that. So yeah.
Yeah, that one actually came from me working at Pandemic, and they had like 10 animators on every team, and it was always like, hey, we need a jump, give us a jump. And if it was someone that had worked in movies beforehand, then we got this beautiful jump that took like 75 frames to take off and then had no loop when it was falling. Like it had a whole like jump arc and then it landed at the same point, but that's not how video games work, right? You don't know when they're going to land. They might have jumped off a ledge, they might have jumped onto a box, because there's always boxes. There's always boxes. There was wasn't there a video game site that used to rate games on time to crate? Yeah.
What is that?
But how long you play the game until you see a generic crate.
Oh, that's cool. I didn't
That was the people that wrote Portal, right?
Old Man Murray.
Yeah, Old Man Murray. Thank you. I couldn't remember. I remembered Old Man, but I was like, Old Man Jeremiah probably doesn't sound right. Anyway, so yeah, like know what you're animating for, and remember that at all times, because it will frustrate everyone that you're working with a lot less. We ended up having to like detrain the people that worked on film. Because the other thing that they would do is like in film, if you're animating a scene and the guy's talking for part of it and you don't see his legs don't have to do anything. But in a video game, every part of them has to be doing something at all times. So like we got a couple of animations from people where they only moved the things that were seen on camera in the test shot that we gave them, and like that's also not helpful. 5 minutes.
5 minutes.
You.
This is sort of a two-part question. So, most of the music in the game was, if I recall correctly,
Michiru Yamane.
Louder.
This is a two-part question. So most of the music was composed by Michiru Yamane of Castlevania fame, and I was wondering, I'm not sure how solid or how, if there would be ever a future for DLC stages. I don't know.
Yes.
Yes, to answer your
Simple
question,
answer, yes.
we would like to have Yamane do more music. And yes, DLC stages will be probably a stretch goal.
Watch the Indiegogo.
Yeah. What was the second part?
I think that was the second part.
That was both parts?
Try and work with Yamane again or seek someone else.
Oh. yes, we would like to work with Yamane again. I can't give you any more details because we don't have any money yet.
You had a question in front.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just had a question about how did you implement the GGPO, the multiplayer?
How did we implement GGPO?
In 4 minutes.
I don't know what I can say that's not covered by the NDA of how GGPO actually works, but the really easy answer for that is you write a thing that lets you do save state and load state, and then you tell GGPO how to save and load the state, and then it does absolutely everything else. Like, you have to make the connection between the machines, but you make it, and then you pass it off to GGPO, and then you ask it what happened, and it tells you what happened, and it loads state and saves state itself, and it's amazing. Easily the best piece of third-party software that we had to work with, and one of the best pieces of third-party software I've ever worked with in ever. Sorry, but more people.
Why did you decide to use jazz music as the genre for Skullgirls?
Why did we decide to use jazz as the music genre for Skullgirls?
Well,
Yeah, go for it.
Okay, sure. The setting of the game is kind of like this, 40s era, like Art Deco. I'm not gonna say Art Deco. I just did. That kind of era, and that kind of music, I think fits that setting the most. So that's kind of the direction I wanted to go with. I mean, I didn't necessarily want to go with the music you might typically hear in this type of game or this type of genre, but I wanted to try something with that kind of era in mind. Yeah.
And also, so much of the core of fighting game music in the early 90s is really jazz. And yeah, Japanese jazz
that'll
has
be
its
this,
own history, but yeah, jazz is very much
Saying
the
that's
core of it.
important.
Listen to Street Fighter 2 jazz.
No, there it is. Yay. I'm just going to do this because we were going to do this anyway, but we'd like to ask more questions.
Out of the things that are finally implemented in the final game and after it's all complete, what are one of the favorite things that you got to actually implement into the game?
What's our favorite things that we got to actually put in?
Yeah.
For me, it was GGPO, and the nice button config and holding start and all the other stuff that fighting games should be doing that have nothing to do with the actual fighting game that they're not doing, and I don't understand why not. I'm very proud of this because we get to point to it and say, look, you can do things correctly, in my opinion, and more game companies should be. So that or Peacock's level 3, depending on what
Just
I'm also going to do this. This has nothing to do with that.
Yeah, what was my favorite? I don't know. Do you want to go first?
I like putting in really small details into animations. So if you go through it frame by frame, you notice little faces on things. Especially Peacock, everything she does has a stupid expression on it. Or when characters do throws and they whiff, they have really sour expressions. Or when they block, they have really dumb expressions when they get hit. So if you ever look at it frame by frame, there's always something fun to look at.
And Starbella's skull.
Oh yeah.
Makes expressions.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, everything makes expressions if you look for it.
Character select music is pretty cool.
Yeah.
I didn't write it, but I directed it, and I feel really good directing those guys. And character select music was awesome. Brendan and Blaine are awesome.
Okay.
Actually, I think I liked how Valentine's Supers came out because
training mode.
they're the ultimate fusion between getting a snappy animation and working with the animators and stuff. And then stuff we were even able to manage to fit in kind of a cinematic super with their operation super. So I think things like that were pretty cool to see implemented because we got the hang of making characters by that point.